soul lift. The podcast is to grow with. The clarity is potent. Take a pause in the moment. Breathe deep, let the soul lift. The podcast is to grow with. The clarity is potent. Take a pause in the moment. Breathe deep, let the soul lift. The podcast is to grow with. The clarity is potent.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Dynamic Pause podcast with Coach Angie. And I am so excited for you guys to be here and meet this man today. I have with me Andy Vargo, and he is a professional speaker, author, life change coach. I love that. Podcast host, and he's got so much more. I'm going to let him tell a little bit about himself, but I want you guys to hear from him what he does in the area of empowerment, personal development, and owning the thing that you think you don't want to own. Okay. So Andy, tell us a little bit more about what you do. And I know it's hard to talk great things about yourself, but this is your profession. This is what you do. So yeah, lay it on me.
I'm glad you appreciate that, because that's one of the things that's been the hardest part of running my own business has been to self-promote.
Yeah.
And I tell my friends all the time, like, you probably don't believe I don't like to do it. I don't put myself out there.
Yes.
But so I am a life change coach. And what that means is that I help people make big changes in their life.
Mhm.
You know, when you start your coaching business, they say you got to niche down. You have to pick the thing you're going to talk about. And I had a hard time deciding, what's that thing I want to help people with? But I realized I've gone through so many changes in my life, and I've developed programs that help you do that and be an expert in that area. So I really decided that's what I need to do. And most of my clients tend to be the change that they're focusing on is that they want to get out of their corporate job and start their own business and learn how to take that thing they've always loved and make it into something meaningful. So I work with a lot of entrepreneurs, and my whole message is own your awkward. It's all about doing it in a way that it works for you, instead of watching all these reels online and go, oh, I'm supposed to do that. And if I'm going to be like this, I need to do this thing and change who I am. No, what works for you is what is at the soul of who you are, and just lean into that.
Lean in. So yes, on that note, I met you at a chamber event, I think it was. And that just started this journey of sharing bits and pieces of our story. We do have a similar, industry vibe, but I think even if we hadn't, it's the journey that I think that is really kind of collective in that regard. And so that's what made me think about wanting to invite you today. Like, yes, I was on your show and I loved that. That was a fun day. But it was that journey. I was like, you know what? The Dynamic Pause, my approach to coaching and consulting and what I do, it's about that leader's journey and how often we as leaders, and especially high performing, highly productive leaders, do not pause unless life pauses us,
Right. Yeah.
And so my hope is that someone will hear a little bit about your story today, and it will be enough to encourage them that maybe, just maybe, they can take a pause and they can, see what happens and what floats to the top and all that kind of thing. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. But as we get started, can you tell us a little bit about your leadership journey as a whole?
Definitely. So from early on, I was a leader. I was involved in middle school and student body, student government, and didn't really get into that in high school, but I was kind of a leader in a lot of ways amongst my friends.
Yeah.
But I didn't see it that way.
Okay.
People would say, oh, you're a leader. You people are following you. But, I looked at leaders like great world people that had huge aspirations to make big change. And I was like, I'm just doing my thing.
Yeah.
But I didn't understand the natural connection that I had with people and how that drew people in and created that dynamic. So when I started my career, right away I started in grocery and ended up being in leadership in a store within 6 months.
Wow.
19 years old. And grew that career to work in the corporate office, to be in management, and took that as far as I could until I moved into sales and did similar type work. So when I started my coaching business, I always saw my career as management and leadership, but I didn't really give myself credit for the fact that I have been coaching and mentoring people pretty much my whole life.
Yeah.
And so I thought, oh, well, what makes you go from grocery to packaging sales to being a coach? I thought, wait, I have coached a ton of small businesses on how to run their business, how to use the right products to control their margin and grow their sales. And the teams that I've worked with. And so I thought, wow, this has been something I've been doing. But one of the things that was really that I had been missing in my life was my own leadership for my own journey. Because so much of the things I had done were the next, like the right steps to take, the next practical thing to do. And that's how I had been living my life until I had that pause where I said, oh, if I'm going to choose to live my life a certain way, I need to now stop and get my bearings so I can be intentional. And I need to lead myself so that I can actually lead others better.
That's so good. And that was going to be like my next question. And maybe if there's more to it to expound when you're thinking about it, it was, did you have that sort of metaphor pause? And if so, what was the motivator behind it? Like what motivated you into?
Yeah. You know, an easy answer is fear.
Oh, okay.
I'm very fear motivated. I don't want to say that. I want to say be brave and courageous, but really that bravery is still doing the thing even with the fear. However, I got to a point where my life wasn't the way that I wanted it to be. I wasn't satisfied in so many areas. And I got so scared of the fact that it would never be what it wanted to be if I didn't make changes. I would never live up to my potential if I didn't take a pause, take a stop, and actually make some changes in my life. And I remember being, this was my 40th birthday. It was a few days beforehand. And what would become my future ex-wife basically said, you know, I don't know what I want to get you for your birthday. And I just remember thinking, you know, I want to be with someone who I've been with for this long, who knows and knows me. And I'm not saying that to like fault her completely. I maybe wasn't making it clear. And I thought everything's going to change in my life in the next year. I just know it. And it wasn't even I got to get out of this. I got to do that. I'm gay and I wasn't out at the time. Obviously I had a wife. So that was not a thing. And I had not been living authentically. I was living to what I thought I was supposed to be doing. The life that I thought I was supposed to be leading. And so I just knew everything had to change. And if I didn't make these changes, nothing would ever get any better. I would never be fulfilled. I wouldn't be helping people the way that I am now. And so that fear drove me to really step back and say, something needs to change. And at that time, I couldn't define what that would be. Like, I'd love to say, okay, here's the map. Now here's the next step. And I just said, okay, I'm going to grab that book off the shelf. I'm going to follow the plan because that's not how it works.
That's not how it works.
You just know that something has to change and you follow that intuition. And a lot of it unfolded over time because at the time it wasn't even a plan. If I'm going to start a business, I'm going to be a coach. I'm still working in my corporate sales role, but one change tends to invoke another change.
100%.
And it's like when you have a pain and you go to the doctor and you get the remedy for that thing, it uncovers another
something else.
Something else. And all of a sudden, oh man, I didn't realize I stubbed my toe last week because my arm was bleeding. And so, but this is all part of getting rid of all those little pains and those things that are hurting us so that we can actually start to just enjoy life and live more fulfilled.
100%. I talk about, in these pillars of my dynamic pause approach that I do, the first one is that pause to breathe. It's like just making space for that one thing, right? And we'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. But as you've talked about the motivator being fear, can you think of any detractors, anything that like once you knew something was going to change that made you go, withdraw or think, you're crazy, man, that's not happening,
So that's a great point because there's so many times along the way where I think we all do this. And I know I've done it plenty where you say to yourself, well, that can't work out because of, and you have a long list of all the reasons why it won't work out. And sometimes we love our friends, but sometimes it's all the things that they put in front of us.
100%.
Of, someone else tried it, or you don't have this background, so why would it work for you? Or, we've seen it before and it failed. And yet we don't ever create that same list of, someone else tried it and it worked. And then, I've done this other thing and it worked. So if we can believe the negative, we have to be able to believe the positive because all we have to do is believe it's possible.
Because
we're not believing that the negative is for sure going to happen. I mean, that's what we tell ourselves in our head, but we don't know that for sure. Yet we believe it.
Yeah.
So why can't we have that same faith in the positive?
Totally. Me and my friends sometimes think and process in songs. And when you said that, that it's possible, Whitney Houston was in my head. It's possible.
I'm going to play that song.
There you go. Yeah. So in that line, so what success pattern from your past are you or were you unconsciously trying to repeat, even though you knew it no longer served you?
Wow, that is a deep question.
Yes.
I think that one of the I know it, and I'm trying to figure out the right words.
Take your time, like sit with it.
Yeah, I need to pause.
Yes, you need to sit with it. Yeah.
But I think it's that if I put words to it, it would be that it's using other people's definition of success to strive towards.
Yes.
And so much of that is materialistic things. It's the image that we put out there and deciding that is success. And I will tell you, since I got divorced, since I started my own business, I have had more top ramen and pancakes and eggs than I would ever want to admit.
Right.
I've been broker than I've ever been since I was in middle school when I was mowing lawns and making money but didn't have any bills yet.
Right.
Like I actually had a better debt to income ratio at that point in my life. Yet at the same time, I've been happier and I've been more fulfilled and I've been doing more meaningful work.
Yeah.
And if I was allowing other people's idea of success to be my deciding factor on whether or not I was doing the right thing, then that I wouldn't be here.
Exactly.
And that's something that I really had to be okay with to then start being successful. It doesn't mean you have to eat top ramen forever. Don't get me wrong. No. This is not like, oh man, I can't figure out my life.
Can't wait. No.
You have to go through that phase of the reason that you're doing it is not because of I want a boat, I want a yacht.
That's so good. Stuff. Yeah. But it's like pausing to make sure that it connects with something that you believe is purposeful, that it's connected to the purpose that you might see developing for your life, or maybe you've never paused long enough to see that you have purpose like that. You know what I'm saying? Because it gets thrown around the word, right? And it kind of feels like Chomsky a little bit, especially in our industry. Right. But there's some truth to it. If more people were trying to tap into it, may not mean a full occupational change, but it can mean a difference in how they show up in the area where they're at, right? Exactly. And so that is so cool. Thank you for sharing that. Oh, this is a good one. What environment or community brings out your most authentic, powerful self?
Wow. What community
or environment?
I tell you, when I had started making life changes, started doing things that are more public, I had an event. I had written a book about being an Uber driver around town because that was what I did when I was divorcing it. My life started, and I wrote a book about it.
Okay.
At the end of that book, I threw an event called the Last Chapter Party, where we Ubered as passengers from place to place.
That is fun.
But I invited everybody from every walk of life. It was an open invites. First time I did this, and I do this all the time now, where I have open invites out there on social media. Like, come to this thing. But it was the first time where I'd have people from my family, people from my old work life, people from my old school life, new friends that I met, people that I met from new communities that I had joined after, changing lives. Some friends that were gay and some friends that were not. And I remember inviting everybody and thinking, all of these people potentially are going to be in the same room. Wow. And they all know a different slice.
Different piece of you.
And so how do I show up? Like, which me shows up?
Wow.
And is this person going to not like me because they see the other slice? Or and it really got in my head. And I was in the middle of doing the work on being okay with who I was.
Yeah.
And it got to a point where I thought, it doesn't matter.
Right.
Like, they might not have seen that side of me. They might not have seen me joke in this way, or they might not have seen me be serious in this way.
Sure.
But it forced me to be okay with the fact that if they don't like that side of me, that's not on me, that's on them. And so when you ask, like, what environment really brings it up, that was the test.
Okay.
For me to be okay with it in any environment.
In any environment.
And it's something that, even though I've been doing this for 10 years, specifically in this arena, I still have to practice. I
Oh, yeah.
still look in the mirror in the morning. I'm going, oh, I got a little bed hair, or I got this thing, or like, where did that little mark come from? And I'm going, you are telling people to be okay with themselves, but that's why I do what I do, because I still struggle with it.
100%.
And so I still know it's not like, hey, I got it all figured out, and
Right.
you make this choice and you move on.
Yeah.
But it's a reminder of, I'm going into, whether it's a chamber event, whether it's a comedy show, whether it's a family thing.
Yeah.
I have to show up as who I am.
Yeah.
And be okay with that.
I love that. And I think that what you mentioned earlier about niche and how that pressure is when we're starting business to find that niche so that you just don't get lost in the crowd. And it does tend to, especially in our industry, do well when it resonates with something that your journey, where you've been or where you are. So to hear that you're still navigating that space, that's better for your clients, right? Because you've seen so many different levels and aspects of it, but you are already positioning them to understand and be able to say it's not a failure if you're still looking at this piece. It's the fact that we get to see it. And as soon as that clarity comes, you can't unsee it. So you have to make some decisions, right? Like I talk about, like for me, there were some very cool things that I never paused to let myself see. And there were some things that I go, ew, I want to vomit over, like, But there were a lot of things that I was like, oh my gosh, girl, what's your problem? Kind of a thing. And so that's very encouraging.
And all of those experiences got you to a level of success, even if it wasn't the success you want to keep, that you can take what worked and bring that into where you are now.
Yeah.
And one thing I want to add, if I may,
Sure.
excuse me.
Yeah.
Is that in that, when we look at our growth and we examine like how we're doing it moving forward.
Sure.
One of the things I remember having a setback. I was in the middle of my divorce and I was feeling like, man, I had few good weeks and I feel good. I wasn't breaking down every day.
Right.
And,
exactly.
And then I had that day where something just hit me and I felt like crap. And I'm back with the head under the pillow going, what is life? What's going on? And this conversation in my head was, I can't believe I'm back at square one.
Oh.
But then when I did pause and realized, you know what? I just had 2 good weeks. And square one wasn't having 2 good weeks.
No.
And maybe next time I'll have 3 good weeks.
Yeah.
So I learned to track the time between the setbacks.
Yeah.
And go, you know what? It used to be that I couldn't make it a day or 2 without feeling crappy.
Yeah.
And then I could make it a week.
Yeah.
And pretty soon it's 6 months.
Yeah.
And pretty soon it's a year. And that way, when you have that bad moment where you're beating yourself up, you can say, you know what? This doesn't feel that great right now.
Yeah.
But this isn't going to last forever. I'm going to sit with it for a little bit. I'm going to sit in this space. And tomorrow or the next day, I'm going to pick back up.
Yeah.
And I might have another year and a half without those moments.
Exactly.
And that's where getting into that space of, well, who am I now and where is the growth? It's like tracking that growth based on how much you're seeing that time between when you need to have that setback.
That's really good. And when you're saying that in that way, someone encouraged me once, because it probably was my therapist at the time, was like, I had made a comment about, here I am again, and here I am, this whole thing. And she said, well, actually, no, you're not, because only if you are the same exact person who lived the same exact experience up to that time, like there's things that happen in between those moments that affect who we are, how we're positioning ourselves, how we're approaching, how we even exist in this space right now, right? And so at that point, if you pause, because the thing is, we just power through, or we stay crumbled, but we don't make ourselves think differently about it, right?
Yeah.
So if I think the same way about the problem every time the problem comes up, doesn't matter how much time has gone by, how much space has gone by, I'm still at that point, right? But if I'm allowing myself, like I love what you said a second ago, to sit there in it, feel it sometimes, right? Because who wants to feel that crap? Nobody,
Yeah.
But if we can allow ourselves to do that, we can start to form different opinions about that situation.
Right.
And in your business, your service, your life thing, getting people to own the awkward is huge, because usually that's what keeps them in bondage. Usually that's what keeps them from moving, because of all of the assumptions that come with the awkward. You know what I'm saying? Instead of looking at it as like, wait a minute, this is my thing. Okay, so how am I leveraging this? And then pausing to see like how people engage with me because of that thing.
Right.
Not in spite of that thing. Because if it's in spite of, you can change who you're hanging with.
Exactly. Yeah, I love that. And I love what you said about not being the same person in that space.
Yeah.
You have all that experience.
I love that. Let me see if I can get you another zinger. So when you are navigating a pause like this, a lot of times there's pressure, internal pressures, but we've talked about some of the, sometimes it's external, right?
Yeah.
So what external pressure feels supportive on the surface, but actually disconnects you from your authentic path?
Wow. Yeah, that is a zinger. I think that a lot of misguided advice comes wrapped in love. People, like, they love you. I've got your back. I'm saying this out of care. And it's because they don't understand your dream.
Yeah.
We have these things that we have the courage to step out and face and say, I'm going to step out and I'm going to follow this dream. And I don't care if I'm living in a tiny space or if my life is in this area.
Right.
And yet other people want to step in and say, yeah, but let's pull your head out of that space and get you over here. It's like, just because you don't understand my space needs to mean that I need to come out of it.
Right.
And so there's that where people show up as friends, and there is a real gift to having a friend who can both call you out when you need to be called out, but support you with the things that not everybody else can see.
Yeah.
And that friend who might be that friend in one season in your life might not be that same friend in a different season.
100%.
They might get you through one section.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, now I'm doing this. Like, I can't go down that path.
Yes.
And that's okay. And it doesn't have to be a big dramatic breakup.
Right.
Just like, that's great, but this is where we're going. but people, they care for us, and they genuinely do. And this is not them trying to be malicious. It's that they're helping you in the best way that they believe that they know how.
Sure.
They understand. Yeah, I know how many at times people like to give me the idea of what they picture for my dream.
Yeah.
Like these borrowed dreams.
Yeah.
Well, it would be great for your business. How about this? How about this segment of people? And every time I've even entertained one of those things, because when I was early on, I was like, oh, maybe there's an opportunity to try that.
Yeah.
And it never worked out right. And it was because my heart wasn't in.
No,
it wasn't that they had a bad idea.
Yeah.
It's just, you have to pursue what's right for you.
You have to be able to pursue what's right for you. And a good idea is not a good idea if it doesn't fit in line with where you're going and what you're doing. There's tons of good things out there. That's the whole point of all this, right? Is, I love what you said. There's so much I want to just like riff on, but one of the things that you mentioned that resonated with me is the whole friendship piece of different people in your lives. And, your journey was motivated by fear. Sometimes people's advice is motivated by fear as well.
Yeah.
They're fearful for us. They care about us, but they're fearful for us. And that fear might come from a logically, valid place, maybe, or it could come from the things that they grew up and how they were thought to, live life, take risks, don't take risks, whatever it is. Sometimes you're engaging with someone and you can be very closely connected to them in certain areas of your life. But like you said, they can't travel to places usually that they haven't been if they're not willing to let go of that piece of their thinking a little bit to come with you. And in that regard, I'm encouraging people to look for reciprocal friendships, because what I mean by that is if you want depth with a friend, often we have people, we want that, right? We want the depth, but the depth only comes from if it goes both ways. It doesn't have to be equal. It doesn't have, that's not real. But there has to be this like back and forth kind of thing. And like your wife didn't know what gift to get you. So if the friends don't know how to show up for you, they are still your friend. They're just not that depth of friend who's been paying attention enough, especially if we're vocal, paying attention enough to know like, oh, she's on New Jersey. He's at a New Jersey.
Right.
I don't have to have the answer for this, but I can be a friend in this season by being an ear, by, if I really want to be a part of the conversation, doing a little research. It's at our fingertips now.
Right.
You know, hey, there's like 20 coaches doing it this way. Your thing is going to be awesome because nobody's doing it. Instead of through fear.
Right. Like,
how can you do it that way? Yeah. You know, like, yeah.
And you know, one thing you touched on there is you mentioned logic and how we try to use logic, and that doesn't relate to the dream.
Sure.
And that's one thing that I've touched on. That's in one of my books, is about how emotion is such a powerful thing, and we need to use that for fuel, but not for the decisions. We need to be able to step out, and that's where that pause is so powerful, because emotion can drive us to get excited, to get worked up, or to take a step back. And we need to capture that. But I like to say the emotion needs, like if you have a ship, the emotion needs to be like in the engine room, like fueling the ship, but you need to be on the deck with logic, deciding where you're steering it. And you could take that emotion and get worked up and go, okay, I followed this passion because I was emotional about it, or something happened in my life that really got me worked up. You know, for me, I was fearful of something, and that got me to a place. But then those decisions can't be emotional reactions. They need to be, okay, now I'm going to step out and say, hey, what is the right direction to go? How do I take the pause so that I am going the right direction?
Yes, that's so good. What you just described really touches on like that second pillar that we do in the Pause of My Approach. I call it like to negotiate, meaning that you've seen something now. Now what? So you've got to negotiate with yourself on those things, that thing, whatever it is. You know, I don't dictate to people what they're working on, but you got to have some sort of negotiation with yourself. And the basic element of that being whether to keep it or let it go. And so do you recall a time where you literally had to have this kind of negotiation with yourself about some aspect that you saw in that clarity moment?
Definitely. And a lot of it was having to let go of the assumptions I was making around reasons that things were happening. You know, we have this where someone doesn't call us back. And we go right to, well, I'm sure they called someone else back, or I'm sure it's because they have this feeling about me, or maybe they're upset about something that we had something awkward in our relationship in the past. And instead letting that go, and you know, they might call you back a week later and you're like, oh, good to hear from you. And you're like, sorry, I didn't call you. And in your head, you're lying to yourself. I figured you'd call whenever. It's no big deal. But you're going, I spiraled for a while there. Thanks. As soon as I was able to let go of those assumptions, and both in personal and in business, it made a huge difference, because I pursue the relationships that are retrospective, or that are reciprocal. Thank you. My grammar's
that's
dropping.
Okay.
But so the reciprocal relationships is like, if I'm pursuing something and I'm on the wrong side of a love triangle, then I'm always going to be craving and following and chasing.
You hear that?
So we got to get out of those triangles, and instead wait, someone is chasing me, and I'm not seeing that because I've got my eye over here, versus, you know what, where it's working, let's let it work. But I've tended to make too many assumptions in the past about why something wasn't working to my benefit, and thinking, you know, maybe it's a big ego, maybe I'm a hidden narcissist, and I won't admit it, that I must have that Superman complex of, I know all the answers, I can fix it. So if it's not working, it must be because of all these things that I know are the right reason, instead of saying, I don't know. And I think that one of the most confident things you can do is say, I don't know.
Right. 100%. There's so much gold in that. I talk to myself about that. Like, just some of my brainstorming is about that very thing, and getting people to relax into the I don't knows. I think the ills of the world that we're dealing with right now are connected to this idea that we're forcing the no. And and you don't have the answer, but you will create these lanes that lead to an answer.
Correct.
And then you make that answer have the platform, and you bring other people with you because you don't feel confident unless you've got a following.
Right.
So you bring other people with you on this journey, and all the while you don't know.
Right.
You still don't know. Even then, even when you've got 18 people, chasing you down to come talk about the thing that you don't really know. But you just not knowing in confidence and pretending like you do.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. I roll my eyes so many times a day when I see a reel or a post on social media and it says, you know what you need to do? This is the thing, the one thing. And it's such a trap.
It is.
But, that one thing could work.
It could.
And that's okay. It doesn't mean that there's no value to that thing, but the overconfidence sure is the thing. But what I do know is that we can ask questions.
Sure.
And so we can be curious and, could this work? Might this help?
Yeah.
Should I try this?
I love it. I have a fellow shoulda, woulda, coulda.
Right.
I was literally writing something the other day, and I was like, Angie, you're using should or could and maybe a lot, but I don't feel comfortable stepping into that area of it will, you will, I don't mind it when I have a certain amount of context around it enough to feel that. But I want people to understand that there's some flex to this.
Right.
You are showing up. You're not me. And there are some things that are very much like scientific that we can count on. Like if these variables are in place, this will happen. So I kind of tend to more word it that way. The propensity for, or the ideal that this is going to happen. So that's funny that you bring that up because I do that all the time. Okay. And I just didn't realize how many other people might think that way as well, because we are saturated.
Right.
And really fire hosed by that way.
Yeah, and I tend to stop listening when I hear that because
me too.
I then don't believe.
I don't believe you.
Yeah, it's like
what you're selling, I'm not buying.
And the same people will say something one day that is a God-given fact, and 2 days later they'll be saying the opposite as a fact. And I'm just going, if I just scroll, I don't have to get.
It's like, do you look at your own timeline? That is a leadership step when people put themselves out there like that. I want you as a leader to be able to go back and say, you know what? Yesterday I thought this.
Right.
I found out this.
I learned some more.
Here's another perspective. But if you don't really believe it like you're saying you do, I just want you to stop doing that. I was having a conversation this morning about some things that I learned when I was younger, around my belief system that I'm like, oh, that was propaganda. Ew.
Right. Yeah.
Kind of like, ew. Does it take away my faith? No. It just makes me look at it from a different angle.
The problem steps in that we are taking actions ourselves based on what we believe.
100%.
And all of
or not taking actions.
Exactly. And so we have to have that gap to say, before I take an action, am I believing the right thing? Or am I questioning this before I step in and just blind faith?
And that is another thing that I talk about on why the dynamic pause is important. And that's why I call it dynamic. It's got life to it.
Yeah. And it's purposeful.
It's so purposeful and it's so intentional. And it's you having the reins. Because like I said before, you can have things happen in your life that knock you on your butt.
Yep.
We all have it. But what we do when we're down there is the decision. What we do in our mindset about getting up. We don't have to have the answers before we get up. We just have to decide what that looks like, right? Me on my journey, it was while I was down, it was the only thing I could come up with was that I'm not going to get up and be the same person that got knocked down.
Yeah.
I don't know what this new person looks like yet.
Right.
I just know I'm not doing this again, this way.
That reminds me of when I didn't quite understand my workflow yet. And I tend to push as far as I can. And in the past, that would lead to burnout. And then I would be out for a couple of days.
Right, because your body goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And at one point, I remember not doing something for a couple of days and just feel like I had wasted those 2 days.
Oh, yeah.
And then I realized, wait, that was my job for those 2 days, was to rest and recharge. And now when I put it on my to-do list that, you know what, Sunday morning from 8 to 1, my thing to do is rest and recharge. And when it's purposeful,
Yeah.
then it's dynamic
Yeah.
because no, I'm supposed to, and I actually have to fight the urge
to
like
start doing
check in on
stuff.
email or things like no. Your job right now is to let your body reset, let your
I
brain
love
settle,
it. Yes.
and it makes it more meaningful. When I don't actually put it down as a task and I just check out,
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel like I got the rest out of it because
Right.
I have the stress of I should have been doing something. This also was on the list, and why did that happen? Versus, what's needed right now
Mm-hmm.
is downtime,
Yeah.
and then it's meaningful. And
Yeah.
so, like you say, it's a dynamic pause. It's
Mhm.
for a reason.
For
It's
a
not
reason.
just to step out and go, well, I just didn't do anything today because I didn't feel like it.
Right.
No, this is an important part of the process.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that not enough of us do it. And especially from our generation, I'm older than you, but I don't know about how much, but I know I am. But but I know that we come from, and this is not a knock. This is just a statement, a fact that we come from. Our rearing involved us from very little
Mhm.
being taught how to be workers.
Right.
Even in school, everything led to the mindset is about work and how our values connected to our ability to show up
Right.
in that way
Mhm.
and contribute and produce and da 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 da. And again, not knocking that, we kind of do what we got to do. There's a thing, but there's an identity piece connected to us that causes this problem.
Right.
It causes this problem of feeling guilty for not moving.
Exactly. Yeah.
And you go to Europe or whatever, and they prioritize that in for the sake of the people, but for the sake of the whole machine to move. They understand that rest
Yeah.
is a part of that. So they have so many things carved out to say, nope,
Yeah.
not doing
Your
that.
boss
Nope,
says,
shut
"Can't
down.
text you on the weekend." That's like not allowed.
Right, exactly.
Right.
All of these little things. And I love that you are finding that space for yourself. It's because it's a step of the journey. It's a continual piece you are
Right.
buying in for
Mhm.
yourself.
And as a business owner and every entrepreneur I know,
Mm-hmm.
now I'm going to be really confident. I know every entrepreneur's experienced this.
Everyone.
If you didn't experience it, you are lying. So I feel like we could have all had this.
Okay.
But we could have all had this where you work, an 8-hour day,
Sure.
and you finish the day and you say, I haven't even worked today. Like,
Yeah.
because to you, if it wasn't a 12, 16-hour day, it's like, wait,
Uh-huh.
in 4 hours, you may have done a ton of stuff, but a long day still feels like a half day.
Oh, yeah.
But the problem is the guilt. I
Yes.
didn't work enough.
We've exhausted ourselves through that
Yeah.
too.
Instead of saying, you know what, today I did 10 things and I got them done in an hour, and that was great. Because there are times in this journey where I say, I just need to get one thing done a day. And that thing might be a social media post. It might be
Mhm.
returning an email. It
Mhm.
might be a phone call.
Yeah.
If I can just get one thing done a day, then in a year, I've done 365 things for my
Love
business.
it. You love it.
And
Yeah.
chances are there's going to be a lot of days where there's a lot more. But then on the
Yeah.
harder days, it's like, did I do the one thing? And maybe
Right.
the one thing is rest and step back.
100%. Because some of those harder days, your brain is on fire because of the number of things that are floating out there, and you're touching this, you're touching that, you're touching this, you're touching that. But then you leave the office and you go, wait, what happened?
Yeah.
What did I do?
Right.
Because we are used to some completion. So I do like the idea of throwing in the things that you complete
Mhm.
as a thing that's
Yeah.
done periodically in there with things that are going to take longer to do. And just breaking those things up into smaller pieces, right? Like if I say I'm going to create this subscription plan, then, okay, we know that's a project, right?
And one thing along those lines is like you get into these big projects and you realize you don't know so much. Giving yourself credit for the learning. Learning is doing something. Like today I learned how to create a subscription.
I love that.
I told myself I was going to get it done, but you know what? I watched 4 hours of YouTube videos and I learned a lot. So that needs to not be a failure that I didn't get it done, but actually a success that I learned
You learn.
10 different systems. And tomorrow I can maybe do some more research on which one I want to choose.
Totally. That's a gem, you guys. You need to write that down, especially if you're doing anything innovative. So my third area of the pause is pause to innovate. And what I've learned is that in these moments that we get for pausing, there comes a time for opportunity, right? Once we get past the idea that the pause is okay, right? Because it takes us a while to get there sometimes. There's a genuine opportunity to explore innovation. If you've done that first part and you let something float to the top, you named it, because I didn't say that earlier, because you need to name it. You got to name stuff in order to really get after it. Because if you don't, if you just express it or just acknowledge the feeling it brought you, then it's just going to get lost in the shuffle again. So we want to make sure we name what we see and what we gain clarity on. Let's get a name, right?
Yeah.
And then negotiate up with ourselves about that thing, what we're going to do with it. And then once we've made that decision, there's an opportunity to innovate. So the assumption is you've already done all these great things, right? In great ways. So the question is, how does any of the things you're killing it in connect to what you believe you are purposed to do? That's a space of opportunity to explore. So I'm going to ask you specifically, when exploring the Own Your Awkward approach in the early days, did you immediately know that this would be the life message you would promote and be known for?
I did not, actually. So when I started leaning into awkward, I was working on a book. I finished a few books, but I have more books that I've not finished than have been finished, right? And the first one that I was working on was going to be called The Awkward Interview.
Okay.
I was talking about all those things we don't want to talk about in an interview process, like having been fired, having a gap on your resume.
Sure.
And I had it maybe a third, half the way done. But in the first Father's Day at the beginning of my divorce, I was super depressed, not feeling good.
Yeah.
Nobody was bringing me breakfast in bed. I wrote a journal entry called Crappy Eggs, Burnt Potatoes, and Cold Toast. So that was my cooking. And I was like, what is going on? But I decided I was going to go online and buy myself my website.
Okay.
And that was going to just be my gift for myself to start like the phoenix rising. Like I'm going to start like rising up, and I've got to do it. And I bought myself this website. And at the time, because I was working on the book, I didn't want to buy Awkward Interview, the website. And so I bought Awkward Career because I thought that can be generic enough to cover things. And then a year later, I started the podcast, and from conversation with friends, I was like, "Oh, are you being funny? You're serious, or what? You kind of need to own it." And I was like, "Oh, own your awkward. I'll leave you that." And so it just developed where that actually became the message that really resonated with people. And I was just thinking about completely different things. And at that point, even when I bought the website, I wasn't out publicly. I was only out to family. And only really planned on being very safe. Like, I'm going to write about career development. I'm going to help people in these areas. I don't need to say anything personal about my journey. How is that going to help anybody?
Yeah.
However, that thing that actually I thought was kind of secondary or more banter really became what resonated.
Wow.
And the more I got out there, it resonated with people for reasons that are completely different than my own journey.
Okay.
And like it resonates with middle schoolers and teens a ton. Oh yeah, I'm so awkward.
So good.
And you look at the culture now where gaming is a big thing. It's cool to be a nerd. It's cool to be all these things that when I was in high school, when we were younger, that was my thing. It was like, they're those kids.
Yes.
And now that's everyone's like, you're not cool if you're not doing those things. I'm not doing those things. So I'm still the awkward. However, one of the things that I found is the things that we're doing don't have to resonate with people for the same reasons that they resonate with us. And I was at the bank, and there's this older gentleman, which is not as much older as I would like to say. Like years ago, I'd be like, that's an old man. And I'm like, he's probably like 4 years older than me. But he looked old enough that he could be retired, but still kind of, maybe working.
Sure.
But on the side of his coin box was an Own Your Awkward sticker. And I've never seen this guy. I've seen him since carrying that box. And I was and I'm behind him in line, and I got my Own Your Awkward hat and shirt on. And I'm just like, I wonder what it is. And I didn't want to interrupt him because you're at the bank and it's money.
Yeah, that's why are you talking to me?
And I'm just going, I wonder what it is, what resonates with him.
Yeah.
And so it really has been a surprise along the way of who it resonates with.
I love that.
I spoke in rooms where I was speaking at, I think it was a Lions Club or a Rotary Club, and there's twice in a row there were gentlemen who were very retired based on their look. And they're both kind of sitting there. One of them, I don't even know if he was, I was wondering if he was even awake while I was talking. He looked like he was asleep. And these were 2 meetings about a month and a half apart. And both times, each of those guys were the ones that came up to me after the meeting.
Yeah.
That really resonated and shared part of their journey.
Wow.
And I'm thinking, these are people that I'm thinking I'm boring and not connecting with. So we have to be careful about how we're judging about what we're bringing to the world.
Yes.
And when it's our thing and we talk about it so much, I don't want to say we get bored, but we lose the value. We lose the appreciation for the value of what we're doing.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to not see that, wow, this is groundbreaking, and bring that energy and enthusiasm all the time. And so it's nice to have those reminders where someone's like, wow, that really hit home
That's
today.
so good.
Really, I thought I was boring everyone, but it's because I'm telling the same stories a lot. And granted, I'm pulling in, to bring in, it's not like I'm going to say the same thing on repeat.
No,
However,
yeah.
but it is like when we have the same message.
You're the messenger, so you're repeating it.
It can feel a little bit watered down over time, and yet it's still the first time someone else heard it, and it's so meaningful to them.
And because it's such a vital kind of message, when you heard it could matter. What stage of life you're in could matter, because somebody could hear it again.
Yeah.
And it means something completely different to them in this particular season than when they first heard it.
And it's changed for me what it means. Originally it meant, be your authentic self.
Sure.
Be okay with that.
Yeah.
And now it's more of a own your journey.
Yes. I love that. Oh my goodness. Did y'all hear that? Own your journey. So thinking of like what we've talked about today, the idea of the dynamic pause, in theory, you and I have not walked through that together, but I knew from our conversations before that there are things that you in your journey had experienced that would resonate with people and with viewers who may not desire to walk through something like that by themselves, first of all, but it's a piece. There's elements of, I want people to see themselves in your story, even if it's just an element of it. When you're looking and considering just that basic premise of the dynamic pause, is there anything you haven't said today that you really would want to just wrap it up, or just another thing that maybe we didn't touch on that you would want to share about your journey and your pause?
That's a great reflection. I think one thing that comes to mind is that when we're in the heat of the battle and we're in the toughest parts of our journey.
Yeah.
I had a friend say to me when we were on a hike one night, she's like, man, I feel so bad for you having to live through that and go through that, and how hard that must have been. And it threw me off, because I thought it wasn't hard. It wasn't that hard. Like, it wasn't as bad as she was making it sound.
Sure.
But it's because when we're in that worst space, all we can think about is getting through.
Yes.
So if you have the time to contemplate how hard it is, that's a sign that you're getting out of it. You're actually, it's a luxury.
You're not drowning, right?
Yeah.
If you have time to think about, Yeah.
And so when we're in that space where we're actually noticing how hard it is, that's actually a sign that you're getting through.
Oh, that's good. I've never thought of that.
And because when we're, if the house is on fire, you're not pausing to think about, you're grabbing the nearest door. And
you're not going, man, it's really hot in here.
Yeah. Then you get outside and you go, what just happened?
Sure.
Oh my gosh.
Sure.
And so being able to, when we feel the worst, sometimes is actually when we're on the upside of it.
Wow.
And being able to then take that pause and say, well, now that I'm here, number one, where do I want to go? And like you said, name it.
Yeah.
Where have I been?
Yeah.
And what can I take from the past, so that when I do rise up, like you said, when I get back up, I'm not that same person.
That's it.
Because now I know what smoke smells like, and I know how to leave faster. Or now I know how the heat feels, and I know that I can get out of a fire. So the next time it comes up, I actually can trust myself to fight that battle.
Woo. And I love that you said the next time it comes up, because what I've found is I want for others what I didn't have. My pause came because of a perfect storm of all kinds of crap that was going on, like, some significant areas in my life, relationally, faith-based, all these things. And I thought to myself as I was walking that journey out and was like, kind of a thing. I thought to myself, you know what? I want this for other people,
right?
But I want them to get it proactively.
Exactly.
And already know, like, hey, there's something else I can do here, and step into it before these big, huge storms come. If you have that opportunity to, I'll get you hooked up with Andy for your offer. But yeah, I think, I want people to understand, like, this is a continual thing. Like there could be a moment that you take your dynamic pause. Like you could be so intentional about it, and it can take as long or as little as you want, depending on how you want to travel through that, what items you want to pick to work on, and that feels weird to even use that term, but you know what I'm saying? What do you want to highlight? What do you want to do? But it's also something that can be applied on to something you're working on at work, to something that, to this relationship with a family member, to this, situation. There's so many applications for it. And I want people to feel like if I am engaging in this way, this is something I would pull up anytime.
Right.
Or even be able to sit with and recognize and name a situation I'm in. Hey, this caught me off guard today. Let me just chill for a minute. Let me make some space. Let me go journal. Let me go. And there's, ask these questions of ourselves that bring us to this place where we can see and breathe and speak, and then say, oh yeah, this is what I'm going to do.
Well, I think you bring in a good point about, like, because I'm passionate about helping people learn these things that I learned way sooner than I did. And that's, we're right on the same page there. And I think one of the big misconceptions people make is that you figure out your life, you learn all these tools, and then you never have problems again.
Right.
And that's not it.
That's not it.
Like you go through some stuff and you deal with it, and you may have bigger things come up that your headspace is better, so they don't knock you down as far. And that's the difference, is that you now can cope with those things better. You can move through them. You have these tools like the pause, so that when the things come up, they don't take you out as much.
100%.
That's what the difference is.
Oh, I love that. And when you're saying that, it makes me think of, in the negotiation piece I didn't mention earlier, about how much that is an identity empowerment section of the pause, because you're negotiating with yourself over this thing, but you can't negotiate with something that's critical to your life without figuring out or owning who you are.
Yeah.
Because you're going to filter it through that. Then how you filter this negotiation is affected.
Exactly.
And the piece that comes out, if you can get that identity piece nailed in, and even if it's only in correlation with what you're negotiating with, that is going to position you for that moment of innovation. You can innovate from that. You can choose something new that you want to do with that. And for some of us, you can change your whole life's direction, about what you're going to do and how you're going to show up in the world. Yeah.
And it's a choice.
It's a choice. Okay, Andy, this was great. I already knew this was going to be great.
I know. We could talk
we can.
We'll be here till the sun's going down.
I know. It's so true. I already knew this was going to be great. First of all, thank you. Thank you for making time today to come. I feel like we'll do something else again. I have another segment that I'm going to do occasionally, and I'm calling it the Meaningful Middle. Oh. And in the Meaningful Middle, it's about coming together to talk about some things that are really important to us and try to get out of the fringes of the extremes. And we may not have all the solutions after that conversation, but there's something that happens to you in your psyche, in your heart, in your positioning, when you actually have legitimate conversation about things that mean something to you. And the world is so polarized right now over so many topics, but hey, let's talk about them. So maybe we'll get together for the Meaningful Middle.
I love that.
Okay. Okay. Before we go, tell us what's happening in your world. This is your time to shine. What's all going on? Yeah.
What's going on in my world? Well, I have a couple different things. Just this spring, I launched the Own Your Awkward Crew, which is a Facebook group that is all about conversation with people on self-acceptance, being yourself, talking about whatever is going on in life. Like I run the group. It's not about just my thing.
Sure.
In the first week, one of the biggest conversations was about dealing with menopause.
Oh,
and I remember thinking, no, it's awkward. If you would have told me 10 years ago, I started a group and this is the most popular conversation.
Yes.
But I loved it. I love this thread because it's the only people who aren't allowed in the group are people who are being jerks to other people.
100%.
So there to talk about whatever we're dealing with and how we lean into our quirky, awkward self.
Yeah.
I love that. And that feeds into my whole community. I do group coaching where we get together a couple times a month, and that leads into my other coaching programs where we do one-on-one and a mastermind.
Yeah.
And my latest book that came out this spring as well is called Own Your Awkward Thoughts. And it's 60 days of guided reflections that help you change the way you think with some prompt questions and some master questions that you can apply to any situation when you take that pause.
Where can they find that book?
You can find it on our website at awkwardcareer.com or in a lot of online bookstores or local shops.
Okay.
And it's just a great, one of the questions I like to ask is, what's a different ending to the story other than the one I'm telling myself?
Whoop, whoop.
So
Oh, yeah.
things like questions like that make you think differently so you can
Mhm.
believe in a better outcome.
I absolutely love it. Thanks for stopping in. Thank you for stopping in for another episode of the Dynamic Pause with Coach Angie. And today, Andy Margot.
Thanks for having
We'll
me.
see you guys next time.
Dynamic pause. Take a pause in the moment. Breathe deep, let the soul lift. The podcast is to grow with. The clarity is potent. Take a pause in the moment. Breathe deep, let the soul lift. The podcast is to grow with. The clarity is potent.